He was planning her funeral when she showed up at his front door, breathing. In the sweltering heart of Atlanta's east side, where brick houses leaned tired against the weight of summer and secrets, there lived a man named Malik Bennett, 38, proud owner of a car detailing business and father to a 7-year-old son with a crooked smile and his mama's dimple. Malik wore responsibility like an overstarched shirt. Crisp, pressed, reliable. But under his clean fades and polite nods was a man unraveling. Slowly, like a thread you don't notice until your whole sleeve's gone. He loved his wife, Vanessa Bennett, or at least he used to. And Vanessa? Vanessa was the kind of woman who walked like the wind owed her rent. Curves wrapped in confidence. High heels in church, higher standards in life. She'd been the Sunday school girl who married the neighborhood's comeback king. The boy who turned his juvenile record into a roofing company, then into a detailing shop off Memorial Drive. They were what people pointed at as making it. A black couple that beat the odds. 2-story house. Wedding rings that shimmered under street lamps. A son who still called her mama in public. But sometimes a house ain't a home. And sometimes, making it just means hiding better. Before we begin, like this video and comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more intriguing stories. Now let's begin. On the morning of June 8, 2022, Malik stepped into his garage to find something wrong. A flat tire, slashed, not worn. 2 nails in the driveway. And a quiet chill in the air, even though the mercury read 92 degrees. He looked around and saw nothing. No note. No warning. Just silence. And silence was always where the first warning lived. Malik went back inside. Vanessa was pouring orange juice in the kitchen, humming something off-key. She didn't ask about the tire. She just kissed his cheek. That was the last morning she kissed him. That was also the last day he believed in coincidences. 3 weeks earlier, and this didn't come out until much, much later, Vanessa had sat in the back booth of a soul food joint on Edgewood Avenue. Across from her sat a man known only as Rome. His eyes were dead quiet. His hands stayed under the table. And his price? $15,000. How do you want it done? He asked. She looked down at her nails. Pale pink. French tip. Quick, she said. And clean. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside, half up front. The rest once it was done. She didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just whispered, he's got life insurance. $300,000. I'll give you 20 once it clears. Rome gave a slow nod, then vanished into the din of clinking forks and Motown on the speakers. If you asked Vanessa that night why she wanted her husband dead, she might have said she felt invisible. That he had stopped seeing her. That the man who once wrote her poems now barely said hello. But the truth? The truth was wearing cologne and driving a silver Audi. Caleb Monroe was 32. Broad shoulders, low morals. He met Vanessa at a fundraiser for a local black arts collective. He read her loneliness like scripture and played the part of salvation. She fell, fast. He called her V. Told her she deserved better. That Malik was dead weight. That she glowed when she talked about her dreams. Caleb didn't know she was married at first. But when he did, he didn't leave. He leaned in. Your husband's the only thing standing between you and the life you want, he'd said one night, voice low against her collarbone. Vanessa didn't say no. She didn't say anything. Sometimes silence is the first yes. Back in the Bennett house, Malik's instincts were itching. Vanessa's phone was always face down. She wore perfume to Target. She smiled at nothing. And then one night, he caught her in the backyard, whispering into her phone, "No, I told you, it has to happen soon." When she came inside, he was standing in the hallway. She smiled like nothing happened. And Malik said nothing. He just started sleeping with one eye open. 3 nights later, a dark sedan idled outside their home for 6 minutes. The porch lights were off. The street lamps flickered. A shadow stepped out, gun in hand, then paused. There were 2 cars in the driveway. The kid's bike was still on the lawn. Rome didn't pull the trigger that night. Not because he had a change of heart. Because someone else had already paid him a second time. Double. And this time with a new target, Vanessa Bennett. Here's the twist that will keep detectives scratching their heads for months. Malik had been watching her too. Not from anger. From fear. From betrayal. From knowing something was broken but not knowing how deep the crack ran. He didn't know about Caleb. But he knew about the money missing from their joint account. He knew about the burner phone. And then he saw a text, just one, that read, "It's done Friday. You just need to be gone." That was when he called Darius Mack, a high school friend with too many felonies and not enough time to care. Malik didn't say kill her. He just said scare her. shake her up. But Darius didn't do subtle. He made his own call and reached the same hitman. Rome. And Rome? Rome saw opportunity. He took both contracts, took both payments, and started playing them both like drums. Friday night. Vanessa was out late. Told Malik she had his sister's night. Told her sister she was with Malik. Truth was, she was with Caleb at a motel off I-20. When she came home at 11:40 p.m., the kitchen light was on. Malik was gone. So was the kid. And on the floor was a knife, clean and used. But the window? It was open. That was the first moment Vanessa realized someone had been inside. That was the moment she started to panic. Not because she thought her plan had failed, but because she now wasn't sure who had been the predator. The next morning, Malik came home with their son and said nothing. Just made eggs. They sat in silence. A family of 3, 2 of whom had ordered the other one's murder. And both were still alive. By July, the tension was blood deep. Malik started sleeping at the shop. Vanessa started carrying pepper spray. Caleb began getting threatening voicemails. And the hitman? Rome was gone. Vanished. Off the grid. Until one day, the Bennetts each received a letter. No return address. No note. Just a photo. A picture of both of them. Together. Sleep. In their bed. The caption on the back. Only one of you paid in full. It's a strange thing, how 2 people can share a bed and still be continents apart. The photo arrived in 2 envelopes, one for Malik, one for Vanessa. Same picture. Same warning. Them side by side in sleep. A marriage held together by inertia, framed in the crosshairs of a man who now held both their lives like loaded dice. On the back, the words, "Only one of you paid in full." Vanessa dropped hers on the floor. Malik held his for a long time, studying the way her hand had curled over his chest while she slept, instinctively, like she still loved him. Maybe she did. Or maybe that was just muscle memory from a better life. That moment, silent, suspended, was the final splinter in a house already cracking at its beams. Neither of them said a word. But in both minds, the same question pulsed like a war drum. Who hired him first? Atlanta is a city that knows how to hide things. You've got pastors who drink with strippers on Saturday and preach on Sunday. Businessmen laundering money behind nonprofits. Husbands who come home late smelling like foreign perfume, and wives who know better but say nothing. Malik and Vanessa Bennett were no different. Just more desperate. More poetic in their destruction. They wore their secrets like designer coats, sharp on the outside, full of holes if you looked close. But someone was looking, and someone had stopped playing games. Rome was a man without fingerprints, literally. Burned them off in juvie. No known last name. Just a reputation that traveled whisper to whisper across West End. People said he did 2 things. Solve your problem, or become your problem. But in July, Rome disappeared. Phone disconnected. Apartment cleaned out. No sightings. No chatter. Gone like he'd never existed. Detective Shauna Delaney, a 10-year APD veteran with sharp eyes and zero tolerance for domestic misunderstandings, started asking questions once the first report came in, an anonymous tip warning of a murder-for-hire love triangle. What she found was a list of people who didn't want to talk. But one name kept circling back, Darius Mack. Darius had been arrested 3 times in 7 years. Assault. Gun charges. A botched robbery at a pawn shop where he left his driver's license on the counter. Not the brightest star. Detective Delaney brought him in 4 unrelated questions. Darius didn't last 20 minutes before folding like a church program. He told me to scare her, he said. Just put some heat on her so she'd back off. But when she asked who he was, Darius hesitated. Eyes shifting. Sweat pooling at the corners of his lips. I ain't saying names, he muttered. Ain't nobody trying to die. Detective Delaney leaned in, voice low and sharp. Darius, I already know it was Malik. But if you don't tell me exactly what went down, he won't be the only one I bury in paperwork. Darius blinked, then broke. Darius explained it like this. Malik came to him after seeing the text on Vanessa's burner. Told him something wasn't right. Said he just wanted Vanessa to feel watched, maybe even think someone was after her. Put some fear in her bones, Malik had said. Darius, seeing $signs, called in Rome. But what Malik didn't know was that Vanessa had already beaten him to the punch, literally days earlier. Rome agreed to both jobs. Twice the money, twice the danger, but no loyalty. He told no one, except one woman, his cousin. A nurse named Nia Watkins, who would become an accidental key in unlocking the whole twisted plan. Because Nia had a conscience, and what she knew would soon set everything on fire. Meanwhile, Vanessa was spiraling. She stopped sleeping, stopped going to work, started carrying a taser in her purse, locked every door twice, watched shadows like they had names. Caleb, who once made her feel like a queen, now couldn't get her to answer texts. When he finally showed up at her house, she opened the door halfway, hair unkempt, eyes sunken. "I think someone's trying to kill me," she whispered. Caleb stiffened. "Who?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just closed the door. The next day, Caleb left Atlanta for Charlotte. He would later tell police he was dodging drama. But the truth? He'd found out about Malik's life insurance policy, and he didn't want his name in the obituary. On August 12th, Nia Watkins walked into a police precinct on DeKalb Avenue, asked to speak to a detective, sat down with Delaney. Her voice shook. "I think my cousin was involved in a murder-for-hire plot," she said. She explained everything, Rome's visits, his talk about a married couple that both wanted each other dead, the cash, the pictures, the way he laughed like he was untouchable. But then 2 days earlier, Rome had sent her one final text. "If I vanish, the story ends with fire." She hadn't heard from him since. That was when Delaney knew this wasn't just a bad breakup. This was a blood pact in reverse. Let's take a breath. Let's remember that in the middle of this chessboard there was a child. Jalen Bennett, age 7. He liked dinosaurs and orange popsicles. He had a laugh that sounded like hope and asked too many questions at bedtime. One night, after a thunderstorm rattled the windows, Jalen asked Vanessa, "Mama, why do you and Daddy sleep in different rooms now?" She didn't answer, just kissed his forehead and tucked him tighter. But in her heart, she knew, if something didn't give soon, he'd be waking up to one less parent. Or none at all. On the night of August 17th, Malik came home from work late. He walked into his bedroom and found Vanessa sitting on the edge of the bed. No TV, no phone, just silence. She looked up, eyes bloodshot, face hollowed. "I know," she said. He stood still. "I know what you did," she repeated. Malik said nothing, and then she lifted the mattress. Underneath it, wrapped in a pillowcase, was a 9-inch kitchen knife. She stared at him. "Was this for me, or for you?" she asked. Malik looked at the blade, then at her. "I don't know anymore," he whispered. That night they talked, not yelled, not blamed, not lied. Talked for 3 hours, about when they stopped being a team, about how love turned into fear, about the way grief and silence had filled every room in the house. Malik admitted he never wanted to hurt her. Vanessa admitted she did. They cried, and then they made a choice. They would go to the police, together. But fate doesn't wait for redemption, and neither does a man like Rome. On the morning of August 18th, Vanessa and Malik got into their car to drive to the precinct. Jalen was with his aunt. They held hands in the front seat for the first time in years. Halfway down the road, Vanessa turned on the radio. The host was mid-sentence. "Breaking news this hour from southeast Atlanta. Police have confirmed the discovery of a burned vehicle behind an abandoned textile mill. Inside, a single body, charred beyond recognition. Sources say the victim may be tied to an ongoing investigation." Vanessa turned off the radio. Her hand trembled. Malik stared straight ahead. Neither of them said the name, but both of them knew. Rome was dead, and now, no one was in control. Some stories don't end in bullets, they begin with them. The fire had burned hot enough to melt bone. All that remained inside the charred shell of the old Dodge Charger was a single gold ring, blackened but intact. It lay on what was left of the passenger seat, welded to ash and metal, a silent witness to the final moments of a man who trafficked in silence. It would take forensics 2 weeks to confirm what everyone already knew. The body was Rome. But by then, the damage had already metastasized. Because when you kill the man who knows everything, you don't end the chaos. You let it off the leash. Malik Bennett sat across from Detective Shauna Delaney, his hands shaking as he tried to light a cigarette. He wasn't allowed to smoke indoors. "Wasn't supposed to go this far," he muttered. Delaney said nothing, just watched him closely. She knew what grief looked like, what guilt looked like. This was both. Rome's dead. You and your wife both hired him. Now he's ashes in a junkyard, and I've got 2 people walking around who made deals with a ghost. Malik looked up. "He set us up," he said quietly. "He was never gonna do it. He was waiting to see which one of us would crack." Delaney leaned in. Or maybe he was waiting to see who he could use first. Malik blinked, and for the first time in weeks he looked terrified. 3 months earlier, Vanessa had found lipstick on Malik's collar. Not red, not hers. Pink, glossy. A cheap shade you buy at gas stations. She didn't explode. She didn't scream. She just smiled and made him pancakes. Later that night, she found a number in his pocket. Rome. He fixes things. That was when the idea first came. Not to kill. Not yet. Just to survive. But as the days passed and the silence grew heavier, it started to sound more like a plan. A final decision. A woman's slow erosion turning to stone-cold resolve. Malik had made her feel invisible. She wanted to make sure he was seen, one last time. The thing about Rome is that he never worked alone. Detective Delaney started pulling phone records, security footage, EDM hits, and that's when she found something strange. A man, tall, lean, always in a hoodie, seen entering Rome's building 5 times the week before his disappearance. Each time he left carrying something heavy. Delaney ran the plates. The car was registered to a woman named Gina Wallace, a 43-year-old realtor in Buckhead. But Gina wasn't the one behind the wheel. That was her brother, Tavian Wallace. And Tavian? Tavian was Rome's debt collector. Tavian Wallace didn't do emotion. He did math. He once beat a man with a tire iron because he was 3 days late on $2,000. His motto was simple: you pay, or you disappear. When Rome fell behind, spending the deposit money from both Vanessa and Malik on coke and clubs, Tavian came calling. He gave him a deadline. Rome missed it, so Tavian handled it. But what Tavian didn't expect was the photo Rome had left behind. A manila envelope. Inside, names, contracts, texts. A full ledger of the hit-for-hire spiral that had now eaten itself alive. Tavian could have destroyed it. Instead, he sold it. Her name was Celeste Ward. Mid-30s. Flawless skin. Eyes like a lie you want to believe. She ran a private risk consulting firm downtown, really just a front for extracting secrets and selling leverage. A professional manipulator. Celeste bought the envelope for $15,000. Why? Because inside it were 2 things she loved. A messy marriage full of bodies. Names that could be turned into cash. And she didn't want justice. She wanted control. And soon, she'd make contact. Back at the Bennett house, Vanessa had become a shadow. She pulled Jalen out of summer camp, kept him close, watched the windows, slept with a knife taped under the bed frame. But guilt has a smell, a taste. It seeps into your breath and stains your voice. Jalen noticed. Kids always do. You're different, he said one night, staring at her with those 2 grown eyes. Vanessa smiled. I'm just tired, baby. But he saw through it, and so did someone else. Because Vanessa was being watched again. But this time, not by Rome. It came at 1:37 a.m. Malik answered on the 3rd ring. A woman's voice. Come, chilling. I know what both of you did. I have the receipts, the texts, the payments, the insurance policy numbers. He froze. And if you don't want your little boy growing up without parents, you'll meet me. She gave an address. An abandoned cafe on Edgewood. Then the line went dead. Malik didn't wake Vanessa. He just sat there, staring at the shadows on the wall, feeling them crawl closer. The cafe smelled like mildew and old blood. Celeste sat in a corner booth, sipping tea from a travel mug like she was on a lunch break. Malik walked in, tense, jaw clenched. She gestured for him to sit. You don't know me, Mr. Bennett, but I know you. She slid the envelope across the table. Rome's dead. Tavian cleaned it up. But before he did, he sold this. Malik opened it, saw the photos, the wire transfers, the texts between Rome and Vanessa, between Rome and himself, a mirrored confession. You want this to stay buried? She asked. I want $100,000, and I want it in 7 days. He stared at her. And if I say no? She smiled. I don't think you're willing to find out. But Vanessa had secrets of her own. While Malik met with Celeste, Vanessa had been watching cameras. She'd installed a hidden GoPro in the living room 3 weeks ago, afraid Rome might break in. Instead, she saw something else. Malik, at 1:45 a.m. His wallet, out the door. No explanation. She checked his messages. Nothing. Then his search history. And there it was. How to wire $100,000 quickly without IRS notification. Vanessa sat back. Her mind began to tick again. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, Vanessa opened the glove compartment of Malik's car while it was parked in the driveway. Inside, wrapped in an old t-shirt, was a .380 handgun. Loaded. Safety off. and beneath it a flash drive. She didn't ask permission, just took it, plugged it into her laptop when he was at work. What she saw chilled her to the bone. Rome's voice, recorded during a phone call. "Look, man, you want her dead, I can make it look like a robbery. But you gotta understand, once this starts, you can't go back." Malik's voice replied, "Just make it clean." Vanessa sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the screen, tears running down her face. He denied it, said he only wanted her scared. But that didn't sound like fear. That sounded like intent. And in that moment, something inside her snapped back into place. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't a coward. She was a mother. And she had a plan. Later that night, while Malik slept, Vanessa drove to a storage unit off Memorial Drive. Inside was a duffel bag she hadn't touched in weeks. She pulled it out, unzipped it. Inside, gloves, burner phone, her own handgun. Still legal. Still registered. She wasn't going to run. She wasn't going to beg. She was going to end this, her way. And as she locked the unit behind her, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. "We know you have the drive. If you don't give it to us by midnight, we'll take the boy." Vanessa stopped breathing. Her fingers clenched around the phone. Jalen. Her son. Her world. This wasn't survival anymore. This was war. It's not the knife in the back that kills you, it's the silence that comes after. Vanessa Bennett stood in the center of her dim kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, phone trembling in her hand. The message glowed like fire on the screen. "We know you have the drive. If you don't give it to us by midnight, we'll take the boy." For a moment, everything inside her went quiet. Not fear. Not a shock. Just the slow, devastating clarity of a mother standing on the edge of annihilation. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She reached into the drawer, pulled out her keys, and headed upstairs. Jalen was fast asleep, limbs tangled in Spider-Man sheets, a soft whistle in his breath. She leaned over, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Mommy's gonna fix this." Then she walked out the door and disappeared into the night. Vanessa wasn't stupid. This wasn't Malik. It wasn't even Celeste. This was someone new. A third player. A deeper shadow. She traced the number through a burner tracking app. It pinged to a tower near Sylvan Hills, just south of I-85. Not much to go on, but enough. She parked 3 blocks away from the cell tower, tucked the gun beneath her hoodie, and waited. At 11:27 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up. Tinted windows. No plates. She watched a man step out, mid-40s, clean-cut, dark suit with no tie. Face she didn't recognize. He lit a cigarette, leaned against the car like he owned the night. That was her answer. Whoever this was, he wasn't scared of being seen. And that made him dangerous. Vanessa didn't always live in fear. She used to teach high school English at East Point Charter. Poetry was her refuge. Sylvia Plath, Nikki Giovanni, Audre Lorde. She once told her students, "Words can either be your weapon or your tombstone. Choose wisely." But somewhere along the way she stopped choosing. Stopped fighting. Malik got promoted. More work dinners. More nights away. She quit teaching to raise Jalen. Then the house got quiet. Then the lipstick. Then the lies. Until finally, she'd let Rome talk her into a solution that looked like survival but smelled like rot. Now she was neck-deep in bodies and blackmail, and her baby was next in line. At home, Malik was starting to put things together. Vanessa's car was missing. His gun was gone. And the flash drive, the one that could send both of them to prison, was no longer in the glove box. Panic flickered behind his eyes. He didn't know about the message, but he knew Vanessa was acting different. Colder. Sharper. And that terrified him more than Rome ever had. He started digging through her desk, her purse, the trash, looking for a clue. Instead, he found a prepaid burner phone. In the call log, he saw a number, Tavian Wallace. Malik didn't call. He showed up. Tavian was at his cousin's body shop in College Park, working on a custom Mustang when Malik stepped into the garage, palms sweating. "You came here?" Tavian growled. "You really that dumb? I need to know who's coming after us." Tavian stared at him like a cockroach. "You paid to kill your wife and she paid to kill you. Then Rome died and I cleaned it up. But now, somebody's stirring the pot and it ain't me." He wiped his hands on a rag. "Celeste sold the info. That's what she does. Blackmail, leverage, dirt. If someone else has it now, it means she lost control." Malik swallowed. "You think Vanessa's working with them?" Tavian chuckled. "Brother, Vanessa ain't working with nobody." He leaned in, voice like gravel. "She's hunting." The man at the cell tower led her to a name, Kenneth K. Raines, ex-cop, fired for evidence tampering. Now a freelance fixer, a euphemism for blackmail, extortion, and occasionally clean kills. Vanessa tailed him for 3 days. Watched him meet with politicians, thugs, one crooked pastor who handed him a thick envelope in a church parking lot. And on Thursday night, he met with Celeste. That's when Vanessa made her move. She confronted Celeste in the parking garage beneath her downtown office. Flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. "Drop the bag," Vanessa said. Celeste blinked, amused. "I was wondering when you'd find me." "You sold our names," Vanessa said. "And now someone wants my son." Celeste raised a brow. "You think I wanted this? I sell leverage. That's it. But Kay, he wants chaos. He wants power. I offered him a deal, and now he's outbidding me." Vanessa stepped closer. "Tell me how to stop him." Celeste's lips curled. "There's only one way. You can't outpay a man like Kay, but you can outbleed him." She handed Vanessa a slip of paper. "Address, password, security schedule. One shot. Don't miss." Vanessa didn't say thank you. She just turned and walked away. Meanwhile, Malik was spiraling. He'd borrowed $50,000 from an old friend in DeKalb with ties to loan sharks. Promised he'd double it in a week. He planned to pay Celeste off. Or Kay, whoever held the leash now. But when he walked into the drop spot, a parking lot behind a laundromat, the bag was gone before he even turned his back. A single note taped to the dumpster. "Your money won't save you." He ran back to his car. Driver's side window shattered. Inside, on the seat, lay a single Polaroid. Jalen asleep in his bed. Malik called Vanessa for the first time in 2 days. She didn't pick up. He drove home, ran every red light. Jalen was gone. Bed empty. Window slightly ajar. He dropped to his knees. Then, behind him, he heard the front door creak. Jalen walked in, backpack slung over his shoulder, holding a bag of snacks. "Mom dropped me at Jordan's house. Said you knew." Malik stared. His pulse slammed in his ears. She'd moved their son, without telling him. Without trusting him. And that's when it hit him. Vanessa didn't see him as a father anymore. She saw him as a threat. Back in Sylvan Hills, Kenneth Raines was growing paranoid. He'd underestimated Vanessa. He wasn't used to pray that bit back. He set up cameras outside her house. Put a tail on Malik. Hacked into Celeste's office server. And what he found stopped him cold. A third contract. A third hit order. This one dated 2 weeks earlier. Client, unknown female. Target, Kenneth Raines. Method, car bomb or poison. And at the bottom, paid in full. Vanessa returned to her storage unit that night. Loaded her gun. Checked the address Celeste gave her. Case safe house. She didn't bring backup. She didn't call Malik. She drove in silence, every heartbeat louder than the last. But when she pulled up, something felt wrong. Lights were on. Door cracked. Inside, the furniture was gone. And on the wall, spray painted in red, 4 words. "He's coming for you." Back at home, Malik found a thumb drive taped to his back door. Inside, a video. Rome. Alive. The footage was time-stamped the day after the fire. Rome in a hotel room. Holding up a newspaper. He smiled at the camera. "Thought y'all could play the game without the man who made the board?" He leaned in. "Nah. You're in my maze now." The screen went black. Some men fake their death to escape their sins. Others fake it so they can collect the debt of yours. Malik Bennett couldn't breathe. He watched the clip again, hands trembling around the cheap flash drive like it was made of live wire. Rome wasn't dead. Rome, real name Jerome Maddox, was alive. In the footage, Rome sat in a dingy motel room, a newspaper in one hand, a glass of whiskey in the other. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth, like he'd been watching them all scramble from behind some invisible mirror. "A little fire never hurt nobody," Rome whispered in the clip. "I needed the world to think I was gone. Now that y'all think I'm dust, it's time I start collecting interest." He leaned closer to the camera. "Vanessa, Malik, Tavian, you owe me your lives, and I'm ready to cash in." The screen went dark, and Malik knew, whatever was coming, it wasn't over. It was only the beginning. A year earlier, Rome met with Vanessa in a hotel room off Glenwood Avenue. The room smelled like bleach and fear. She sat on the edge of the bed, fingernails digging into her palms. Rome poured 2 glasses of dark rum, placed one in front of her. "You sure this is what you want?" he asked. "No," she whispered. "But I don't see another way." Rome chuckled, took a sip, then slid a burner phone across the table. "You're gonna text me a name. And a time. I'll take care of the rest." But remember, Nessa, once you enter this door, there ain't no exit. She didn't flinch. She sent one word. Malik. In the present, Vanessa sat in a Walgreens parking lot, watching the video Malik had forwarded. Her jaw clenched tight, fingers tapping the wheel. Rome's not dead. Her whole world shifted. The fire. The police reports. The dental records they claimed matched. Less. Or worse, a show. And if Rome was alive, that meant someone helped him disappear. She thought of Tavian. She thought of Celeste. Then she thought of Kenneth Raines, the fixer with no allegiances and too many enemies. She didn't trust any of them now. Malik spiraled. He called Celeste. No answer. He drove to Tavian's body shop. Empty. His paranoia turned physical. He couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Kept a pistol in his waistband even when he was in the shower. Jalen noticed. Why do you keep locking your bedroom, Dad? Malik stared at his son, saw Vanessa's eyes staring back. Because sometimes people come back when they shouldn't. He said it too loud. Jalen flinched. And something broke in Malik. Something human, something soft. He reached out to touch his son's shoulder, but Jalen stepped back. Can I stay with Mom tonight? Malik didn't answer. That night, Vanessa got a call from a restricted number. She answered on instinct. A voice, deep, familiar, playful, poured through the speaker. Still sleeping with one eye open, Nessa? She froze. Rome? A laugh. You ever think maybe we both survived that fire for a reason? Her voice was razor sharp. Why'd you fake it? Because I needed to know who would dance on my grave. And now I know. Pause. You and Malik played God. Now it's my turn. Then, meet me. 3 a.m. abandoned mill off Murphy Avenue. Come alone. He hung up. Vanessa stared at the dead screen like it might bleed. Rome wasn't born cruel. He was made that way. Foster homes, juvenile detention, a mother who died with his name half-written in a prayer journal. He learned early that love was currency, and betrayal was survival. By 21, he was running fraud schemes across 3 states. By 30, he was teaching people how to disappear for cash. By 35, he was the guy you called when you didn't want blood on your hands, but didn't mind it being on his. He and Vanessa shared a strange chemistry, like gasoline and flame. She knew what he was. He admired that she didn't flinch. But somewhere in the shadows, admiration rotted into obsession. Vanessa arrived at the mill 5 minutes early. Gun in her waistband. Blade in her boot. A pocket Bible tucked in her coat like armor. The place was dead quiet, just rusted metal and the ghost of industry. She stepped through a broken door, flashlight beams slicing through dust. Then footsteps. Rome appeared from behind a concrete pillar, alive, smug, and very much enjoying himself. Well, look at you back from the brink. Vanessa didn't smile. You threatened my son. Rome raised his hands. I did no such thing, but I did want your attention. And now that I have it, let's talk business. She didn't lower the gun. You faked your death, burned a man alive, and now you want to negotiate. Rome's eyes sparkled. You think you're still the one making the rules, Nessa? That's cute. He reached into his coat. She cocked the gun. Slow. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a second flash drive. Tavian recorded your whole meeting. The one where you asked for Malik to be killed. Insurance, he said. In case you got cold feet. Vanessa's blood turned to ice. Rome smiled wider. And now I got it. All of it. Your voice. Your words. Your intent. She stared at him. What do you want? He leaned in, breath hot against her ear. Your silence and Malik's life. Or I give this to the cops. And your son becomes a ward of the state. Vanessa left the mill with fire in her throat. She didn't sleep. She didn't cry. She made a list. At the top, everyone who needs to go. Kenneth, Tavian, Rome. Because the only way out of this mess was to burn it down again. This time for real. She'd start with Tavian. Tavian had always known it would end like this. Blood on concrete, some old score finally called in. But when he opened the door to his apartment and saw Jalen standing there, his stomach dropped. Your mom said to wait inside, Jalen said innocently. What? Where is she? Then the sound of a car door slamming. Vanessa walked up the stairs, calm, measured. Hey, Tavian. We need to talk. He tried to reach for the gun under the table. Vanessa pulled hers faster. You recorded me. Tavian's face twitched. Rome made me. Said he needed leverage. You always need leverage, she hissed. That's why you die broke. Jalen stared, eyes wide. Mom? Vanessa turned to him, softening. Go outside, baby. I'll be right there. He hesitated. Now. But Vanessa didn't shoot. She sat down across from Tavian. You're going to help me fix this, or next time I won't miss. Tavian swallowed. How? She opened her phone, showed him the text log between Rome and Kenneth. Start with this. Trace the money. Trace the power. Then we burn the whole ladder down. Tavian nodded, wiping sweat from his neck. But we do it my way, she said. No blood unless I say so. He blinked. You trying to clean your soul, Nessa? She looked him dead in the eye. No, I'm trying to save my sons. At that very moment, Kenneth Raines was in a motel outside Decatur, pacing the floor. Rome had turned on him. Celeste had vanished. And now Malik was leaking. He opened his laptop, activated a hidden feed. Vanessa's living room. A small camera embedded in the ceiling vent. She didn't know he could see her. Didn't know he'd been watching for weeks. And now she had his name on her hit list. He made one call. A female voice answered. You ready? She asked. Do it, Kay said. Then he opened his inbox and found a video waiting for him. A recording of him killing someone years ago, supposedly buried. Sent from a blocked sender. The subject line. Now you're in my maze. The devil doesn't show up with horns and a pitchfork. He shows up wearing the face of someone you thought you buried. Previously, Jerome Rome Maddox faked his own death in a fire. Vanessa, his former lover, had paid him to kill her husband Malik. Malik, in turn, had hired Rome to kill Vanessa. But Rome had his own game. Now, alive and armed with blackmail, Rome holds footage that could put Vanessa away for life. Kenneth K. Raines, the fixer behind the scenes, is being watched. Tavian, the reluctant middleman, has switched sides. And Malik is spiraling out of control, haunted by paranoia, guilt, and the truth he helped create. One by one, the players have circled each other like blood-soaked wolves in the dark. Now, someone's about to strike first. It was 3:17 a.m. when Vanessa got the alert. Motion detected, living room camera 3. She froze. She hadn't set up a third camera. Her son, Jalen, was asleep down the hall. The old house groaned with age, but this was movement. She accessed the feed and saw a man in a hoodie standing in the shadows just outside the baby blue curtains. He wasn't moving, just watching. Vanessa grabbed her pistol and tiptoed to the front door. No footsteps, no breath. She yanked it open. Nothing. No one. But on the porch was a single playing card. Queen of Spades. And scrawled on the back in a hand she knew too well. Even queens get burned. Rome was back in Atlanta, hiding in plain sight. He'd shaved his beard, changed his walk, and now used a new name, DeMarcus Lowe. Still, the city's undercurrent belonged to him. He had ears on every block. He knew who was bleeding and who was bluffing. His empire was no longer fire and gunpowder. It was fear. He'd blackmailed Vanessa, had Tavian on a leash, watched Kenneth twist under pressure like a man waiting to drown in secrets. All that was left was Malik. But Rome wasn't interested in killing him. He wanted Malik to live, to suffer, watch everything crumble, and know who had done it. He texted Tavian. Time to take the preacher off the board. Tavian texted back. Are you sure? Rome replied with a photo. Jalen. At school. Smiling. Unaware. Beneath it, move or the kid becomes collateral. Vanessa met Tavian that night at a deserted train yard. She brought the flash drive, her leverage. He brought his fear. Rome's out for blood, he said. He's using your kid like a chess piece. Said he wants to start with Malik. Vanessa's face didn't flinch, but her hands, they were trembling. She handed Tavian the flash drive. Give this to Kenneth. Tell him to leak it. All of it. The footage of me, the audio, the texts. Tavian blinked. You trying to turn yourself in? No, she said, her voice razor sharp. I'm giving Rome what he wants. A queen sacrifice. She turned to leave, then paused. And when this is over, I want you to disappear, Tavian. For real this time. He nodded. But he knew too well. People like them never really vanished. They just changed mask. Kenneth sat in his hidden apartment, walls covered in black and white photos from old cases, string tying connections like a spider web only he could read. But this time the web was around him. Rome had footage of him executing a deal gone wrong in 2009, back when he worked for a cartel-linked client in New Orleans. That file had been erased, but somehow it had reappeared. Blackmail. He pulled a Glock from under the floorboards and placed it beside the laptop. Then the screen blinked. Incoming message. From Tavian. Vanessa's offering herself up. Said leak everything. You in? Kenneth stared at the screen. Then at the gun. Then he made his decision. Malik was driving through downtown when his rearview mirror lit up red and blue. "Damn," he muttered, pulling over. But no officer approached. Instead, a motorcycle zoomed by, revving loud, masked rider flipping him the bird. Then another. Then another. A swarm of bikes, like a convoy from hell. And then one of them threw something onto his windshield. A matchbox. Malik opened it. Inside, a charred piece of tooth, burned black, wrapped in a napkin that said, "You owe me your breath." He dropped the box. The past was no longer in the rear view. It was in the passenger seat. At 7:03 p.m., social media exploded. A grainy video showed Vanessa Bennett in a hotel room, offering payment to have her husband killed. The footage was damning. The city responded like dry grass to fire. News outlets picked it up. Vanessa's job released a statement. Her friends stopped answering. Police requested she come in for questioning. Rome, wherever he was, watched the chaos with a glass of wine and a slow smile. Then his burner phone buzzed. A new video. This time, him in the motel. Bragging. Explaining the fake death. His plan to blackmail everyone. His threats. Leaked. Rome's smile fell. He checked the metadata. It had been leaked from a device owned by Kenneth Raines. Rome burst into Kenneth's safe house that night with Tavian in tow. Kenneth was waiting, armed. "You played yourself, Raines," Rome snarled. Kenneth didn't flinch. "You overplayed your hand. You made it personal. That was your mistake." Rome lunged. The gun went off. Smoke filled the air. Tavian screamed. Kenneth slumped to the ground, shot in the shoulder. Rome raised the pistol again. But Tavian moved, knocked it off balance. Another shot. This time it hit Tavian. In the gut. He collapsed, bleeding. Rome turned the gun toward Kenneth again. But before he could pull the trigger, boom. The door flew open. Vanessa, standing there, cold, armed, unblinking. "You forgot one thing," she said. Rome froze. "What?" She smiled, soft and terrifying. "I don't miss twice." A shot rang out. Rome staggered back. Blood bloomed like ink across his chest. He dropped the gun, fell to his knees. "Always had good aim," he rasped. Vanessa stepped forward. "You tried to make me a villain, but I was just surviving." Rome coughed blood, smiled. "That's what villains always say." Then he collapsed and didn't get up. 3 months later, Tavian survived. Barely. He lost a kidney but gained a future. Kenneth vanished. No trace. Some say he left the country. Others think he's still watching. Malik turned himself in. Confessed to the attempted murder plot. Claimed insanity. His trial is pending. Vanessa? She took a plea deal. Pled guilty to conspiracy. Avoided major prison time in exchange for testimony. Now she lives outside Atlanta. Keeps a low profile. Works nights. Walks her son to school every morning. Sleeps with one eye open. Some call her lucky. Others say she's cursed. But when you look into her eyes, you see something more ancient than pain. You see a woman who's been burned, but walked out of the fire anyway. 6 months later, a detective in Atlanta receives a flash drive in an unmarked envelope. On it, new footage, a third camera angle, a motel room, Rome Maddox. But this time he's speaking to someone else. A silhouette, unseen. "Matt, so she thinks you're dead?" "They all do," Rome says. "Good," the silhouette replies. "Let's keep it that way for now." Then the camera glitches. Static. Cut to black. File name. Lazarus Protocol, Phase 2. In the end, this wasn't just a story about betrayal, murder plots, and double crosses. This was a story about how far people will go when pride replaces humility, when pain festers instead of being healed, and when revenge becomes the only language spoken between people who once shared love. Rome Maddox thought he could outsmart death. Vanessa Bennett thought survival meant becoming just as cold as the danger around her. Malik thought control would protect him. And Tavian, trapped between loyalty and morality, paid a price for silence. But here's the truth. You don't heal by hurting others. You heal by confronting your demons and choosing a different path, even if it's the harder one. If this story teaches us anything, it's that secrets rot the soul. That when love turns into leverage, no one wins. And that sometimes, the deadliest weapon isn't a gun or a fire, it's the lie we convince ourselves is justified. If this story moved you, made you think, or chilled you to your core, hit that like button to support more true crime stories like this one. Comment below. Who do you think was the real villain in this story? Vanessa, Rome, Malik, or someone else entirely? Share this video with a friend who loves crime thrillers with a twist of morality. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that grips you by the throat and won't let go. Because in this world, truth is stranger than fiction. And on this channel, we tell it exactly like it is.